All right, everybody, welcome to the next episode of the PropTech Genius Show. And today's genius is Onkar Shetye. Did I say that right? Shetye? Is it Shetye?
Absolutely. Onkar Shetye. That's the way
This
people
is
say it.
always my dilemma as a startup founder is like, oh, Diana, we sit there and chat and we've already had another meeting and then I forget to ask how to pronounce people's names.
Oh, that's
But my last name is Paul Vito and nobody can pronounce it either. So it's all good. It's great. Well, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you. So you are my first guest from India, I think. Yeah, you are my first guest from India. So we get to talk about all things India and what y'all are doing. Y'all are kind of the preeminent prop tech people in India. So it's super, super cool. I'm so excited. And everybody, we have a local celebrity in the house because they were on CNBC. So just saying. I'm so jealous. I want to be on CNBC. I would love that. So anyway, we'll talk about that too, but I will shut up and let people, you can introduce yourself and what y'all do and all the cool things you're doing in India, and then we'll get into it. So go ahead.
absolutely. I think, Amy, thank you so much for having me on the show. And it's a great initiative, I must say, at the forefront. PropTech as an industry, not just in India, but globally, requires a lot of visibility from two standpoints. One, because of the potential for tech-enabled efficiency and experience that it can bring in, both for real estate enterprises, real estate consumers, and also, of course, real estate service providers.
Mhm.
Uh, I would say the largest industry, the most primitive industry, real estate, and it has got great potential from a technology disruption standpoint. And you've been seeing advancements across the globe, primarily in the US, in India, uh, in China, and of course some parts of the Europe, where there are early stage, mid stage, and of course mature prop tech companies that are leading from the forefront. Despite that, uh, as a category, as a technology category, as a niche category, you don't have the same reverberance as you see it in fintech or edutech or health tech, right?
Mhm.
Despite real estate being one of the largest
Exactly.
category of purchases in the consumer's lifestyle. So I think that this is a great initiative to get visibility for the sector, and we all appreciate you for that.
Oh, thank
Uh, coming to India, India real estate. I'll just put a quick glimpse on where we stand and how are we progressing. I think India real estate is well on its way to be a $1 trillion sector by 2030.
you. Mhm.
We should be real estate in India should be I would say the second or the third largest contributor in terms of employment generation and also in terms of GDP contribution to the country. When we see real estate as a value chain, we see, of course, various asset classes that are getting prominence, asset classes ranging from office spaces, which include commercial office spaces, global capacity centers. Then we move on to the residential segment, which is primarily the primary buy sell side of a residential segment, the secondary real estate or the resale homes, the rental real estate also forms to be a large part of it. And then, of course, the alternative segment, alternative asset classes, which include industrial, warehousing, your co-living, student living, hospitality, data centers now, which is also getting a lot of prominence.
Yeah.
So that's typically the spread in India real estate, and we are well poised to be a $1 trillion sector by 2030. We at Aurum Proptech believe that of the $1 trillion sector size, PropTech as a segment will take 10% of this contribution, and PropTech in India will itself be a $100 billion sector,
Mhm.
and there'll be probably 3 to 5 key leaders or three key market players in this segment
Mhm.
that will go on to dominate the space in the residential side, in the commercial side, and of
Yeah.
course in the capital side as we see it.
Yeah, I talk with some companies from India, and it's funny because I was talking with Sagram the other day, and he runs a company that's around asset management, right? And he was like, Amy, yeah, well, they're at like a million. They're just a new startup, so they're at a million revenue. He goes, but you don't understand. This is a million revenue in India, and I'm like, okay, so what does that mean? And he's like, well, India is like still kind of just getting very just at the very beginning of its technology adoption in real estate, right? He goes, y'all are way ahead of us in the US. I go, oh, so you're saying if you can make it in India, you can make it anywhere? Basically, like in New York, you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. Well, so because and he does, and he has a lot of Indian customers, and so he's like, yes, because we're having to fight with these real estate companies to get them to adopt technology, and if we can do that here in India and be successful, then we could probably do. So it's really interesting to see. But I think India is probably recognizing, faster than some of the real estate companies in the United States are like, hey, we can't wait around anymore, right? We have to adopt technology. I think the US companies are figuring it out, but it was so funny because I was just on a call with this telecommunications guys. I really want to talk about that because internet connectivity is so crucial to prop tech, right? You can't do prop tech if there's no community-based Wi-Fi. I mean, if you're doing IoT devices, you have to have it. If there's no connectivity, so what's happening in the landscape of India around connectivity, and is it the same there, or are you having trouble with connectivity in the properties?
So I'll give you two points to this. One is your earlier communication did throw uh, the right light onto the sector.
Mhm.
I think we are, from a tech penetration in real estate standpoint, we are at the beginning of the curve. What we
Yeah.
see happening in fintech in India between 2010 to 2014, which was really the initial beginning curve of fintech. And then in the second half of that decade, it went on to exponentially increases. Is the same is similar what we are seeing in India PropTech. Coming to digital adoption, I think India has witnessed the fastest internet penetration and digital adoption both across the country. Just to give you a quick number date on that, there are some 700 million internet users in the country. We've got 470 million social media users, and there's around 350 million digital payment users in the country.
Wow.
Uh, from a behavioral standpoint, I think 80% of digital consumers prefer to search, discover new products online.
Mhm.
There's additionally 69% of consumers go on to sort of prefer digital communication as a way of interacting with customer support and so on. So from a penetration standpoint, we are we are well ahead of the curve, and also from a behavioral standpoint of the Indian consumer, we are well ahead of the curve. And I can attribute it for two main reasons. One is the demographic profile of the country is quite unique to the world, if you can say that. Around 55% of or 52% of the population in India is attributed to the Gen Z and the and the millennial demographic.
That
Uh,
uh, that's a lot of young kids.
yeah,
Wow.
absolutely, absolutely. And in addition to that, if you look at the workforce, right, there's around 70% of the Indian workforce that is again attributed to the millennial demographic. If we take the technology sector, which is one of the largest sector in India, uh, 86 to 90% of the workforce that works in the technology sector is again attributed to Gen Z and millennial. So, from a demographic profile standpoint, also, uh, the consumer is well versed and adopted to this internet revolution that we are seeing, and this is just starting. We would say that this is just starting, and as we get better with respect to internet speeds, as we get better with respect to internet penetration further into tier three and rural areas, this consumer-led digital behavior
Mhm.
and digital adoption will further go on to fuel growth across all sectors, including real estate.
For sure, because they're going to demand it. Your technology is going to have to catch up with what the consumer is demanding. They're going to want to demand to do everything on their phone. They're going to want to demand that they have, but is the same millennial stereotype or attributes that are in the US, is it the same in India? Do you know? I mean, like, so the millennials here, millennial and Gen Z are very, very environmentally focused. They're very, very much purpose driven. Like they're not going to go work for somebody unless they see a purpose behind. If I can stereotype them, if there's not a purpose behind your company, if there's nothing, like if it's just they're not going to go do a job just to make money. Like that's not their gig, right? They have very much that. But then also I'm finding that now that, like, I was talking to somebody the other day, the number one question when somebody is interviewing for a job is it a hybrid work environment or can I work remote? And if I can't do that, I don't want, I'm not interested. So is that the same in India or is it different there?
It's similar in India, and you can now find more and more younger office goers, more and more consumers preferring work-life balance, preferring
Yeah.
value for money, preferring community experience, preferring experiential living, preferring sustainability in their product choices across all categories in India. So yes, there's a similar trait that on behavior in India as well. And again, I think we can attribute that to the kind of awareness, the kind of access to information that the demographic has today.
Yeah, I mean, so you're because of your population demographics, right? You're going to see a more push toward technology adoption probably than the US will. I mean, that's super cool. So y'all are gonna be like hairs on fire trying to figure it out, right? Like in most startup founders, but that's super cool. So talk about your experience on CNBC and why they asked you to come on. So what's happening with your cool company and all the stuff that your company's doing. Let's talk about that.
Absolutely. I think I'll give you a quick gist of what we do at Aurum Proptech. We are a property technology company. Our model is that of integrated PropTech, and we offer it in an ecosystem model. We have got three clear clusters or categories of our offerings, which include the rental cluster,
Mhm,
which is co-living, student living, and rental marketplace. Typically, first consumption in any real estate consumer's lifetime of real estate consumption.
mhm,
The second category, so that's the B2C space that we operate in. The second category of our offerings is on the B2B side, where we take care of the distribution cluster of typically how do you distribute real estate better and more efficiently, and is more relevant to enterprises. How can they generate better prospects? How can they manage their prospects and consumer experiences better with the way of AI and CRM?
mhm,
And how do they distribute their projects with a faster velocity by the way of channel partner aggregation platforms or broker aggregation platforms? So that's the second cluster that we offer. The third cluster is on the capital side, and it deals with both. It deals with the wholesale capital side or the wholesale fundraise side and the retail fundraise side. On the wholesale fundraise side, we have asset management companies which utilize technology to do indexing of real estate projects and go where there's a demand for last mile funding with a good prospect of generating a return and yield on that. We also operate in the fractional ownership space,
oh,
which brings a good velocity for real estate investments
mhm,
from the property owner standpoint, and also access to good quality real estate
mhm,
at a lower value, tokenized for the real estate investors.
mhm,
So that's on the fractional ownership side, where we are now going and applying for the SEBI regulation of SM REIT. So the Securities Exchange Board of India, which
uh-huh,
governs
okay.
investments in real estate, has come out with a regulation to regulate the fractional ownership space for consumer protection.
Oh, interesting.
And we'll be one of the first license appliers in the country. I think one of the top 3 to 5 companies in the country to apply for this. And then, of course, we'll come to the third category, which is the retail side of fundraise, which is a loan origination for home finance, individual retail homeowners looking to find the right loan product, home loan product. And we just don't help them discover the right home loan product, but we also help them fulfill that by the way of having end-to-end technology integration with banks and financial institutions. So that's the model. We are in the third year of operation. We are listed on the Bombay and the Bombay Stock Exchange and the National Stock Exchange.
Wow.
We have 14 plus products in our portfolio. Like I said, in the B2B, in the B2C, and the B2B2C side. And we've this year we grew at 68% in revenue. And of course, one key milestone that we achieved was a reduction in our EBITDA, an improvement in our EBITDA. We stand at a 9.9% EBITDA margin now, which was something to be noticed about in this technology space. And
Yeah.
that's why the interaction with CNBC, where they were keen to understand the space that we operate in and what is our future roadmap and how are we looking at building this further robustly.
Okay, so for us in the US, what he just said is they in 3 years IPO'd and are on the stock exchange. When did you get on the stock exchange? Was that year 2, year
So
3?
we didn't IPO. We took a different route to get listed. We bought a listed company and then started building
Oh, look at
the entire
that.
structure.
Okay. All right. So that's super cool. I mean, that's one way to get listed, I guess. Did you do an involuntary takeover or did they agree to be taken over? Did you come in and
So
hostilely take them over?
it's an interesting case study. Uh, the the company in its erstwhile avatar was in the insurtech business. It
Okay.
was known by Majesco Limited, and it was taken over a US private equity, one of the largest, or bought by one of the insurtech business was bought by one of US's largest private equity, Thoma Bravo.
Uh-huh.
Uh, that transaction virtually sold off the entire insurtech business to Thoma Bravo. And then we found this as a good platform to build an institutionalized business of prop tech.
Okay.
And that is why we went on to sort of, acquire that company. We started by acquiring the promoter stakeholding
Uh-huh.
of 14%. Then, as regulated by the regulation,
Mm-hmm.
mandated by the regulation, we went on to do an open offer where we increased our stake to 34%. And then, by the way of a rights issue, we have now increased our stake to 51% in the company.
Okay.
So
Well,
that's
there
been
you
the path to our listed vehicle. So shortly, we bought a listed company to build this.
So, who are your founders? It's you. Did you come from institutional land? Is that how you knew how to do this? I mean, like, this is not a normal founder story, right? I mean, y'all must have gotten on the inside track. I want to have a beer with all of you. I
Ab-
want to sit down and go, okay, how'd you do this? I really want to know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll give you a quick gist of how does the founding team look. So Mr. Ashish Devra is the CEO and founder of Aurum, the Aurum
Yeah.
Ventures, I would say the parent group of the entire organization.
Okay.
And he's done 2 3 key sunrise sectors in the country. He was instrumental in setting up the telecom sector in the country. He was one of the first founders and one of the first companies to lay an optic fiber network in a metropolitan city in the country.
Wow.
This was back in 1999 when most of the network or the telecom network was on copper wires. So we were one of the first companies to do that. We were also in aviation. We had taken over a flagging, I would say, struggling airline company called Modi Lufthansa, Modi Luft.
Yeah.
This was back in 2004. We took it over, we restructured it, we turned around the operations. One important thing that we did there was introducing digital pricing, and till that point of time, I think most of the industry was reliant on brokers or travel agents to book their airline tickets.
Okay.
And by the way of introducing digital pricing, we were able to bring this perishable commodity of an airline seat
Mm,
directly to the consumer.
right.
And then today it's quite ubiquitous. Almost every
Yeah.
airline, every
Yeah.
travel platform uses that. So that was the second venture. The third venture was in renewable energy. We are the co-founders of one of Asia's largest renewable energy provider, which is also listed on Nasdaq. It
Wow.
goes by the name Renew Power,
Okay.
and that was again co-incubated by Mr. Ashish Devra and the founder of Renew Power, Suman Sinha. So these three were key sectors till 2010 that we successfully established. We have, of course, divested entirely from all these three sectors and companies. Uh, and from 2010 to 2020, we were heavily invested in terms of energies and effort in the real estate sector in India.
Okay.
We do have a real estate arm which
Mm,
is not associated with the PropTech company.
yep.
The real estate arm is primarily engaged in construction and monetization and management of real estate assets, and we do three types there. We do commercial real estate assets where we do large format office spaces that are typically given to B2B companies like banks and
Right.
IT companies and so on.
Yeah.
We also do residential real estate in which we do ultra luxury and luxury segment.
Mhm.
And then the third one is, of course, retail, which is a lifestyle retail segment that we do. All our real estate projects are located in Mumbai. There
Okay.
we have close to 10 million square feet of asset under development and management. And
Mhm.
that is run professionally and independently by a company. So that actually gave us a lot of understanding of real estate as a sector, the problem statements in this sector. And we thought this is a good opportunity to bring an asset light model where we are able to solve the problem statements in the real estate sector with technology. And that's the genesis of Aurum Proptech.
Yeah,
I have
that's
been
super
associated
cool.
with the organization for over a decade now.
No,
And I think we've been able to see some fabulous journeys all throughout.
for sure. I mean, that's what I think the best prop tech founders are real ex real estate people, right? I mean, well, it's hard to make the leap though. Sometimes it's hard to make the leap because you're real estate people, you're not tech people, right? And so which I know because that's where I was in construction and real estate for 20 years, and then I went to the dark side. I went to tech, and it's a whole totally different game on the technology side, but I understand what the product needs to be. I know the problem statements. I know all of those great things. That's why I started my tech company, because nobody was solving the problem, right? But it is a big leap. It's bigger than people think. I mean, even though I didn't stray too far and it's real estate technology, still it's a completely different animal, and you have to learn you learn how to lead a tech company versus a real estate company. But I do think the best founders, tech founders, do come from real estate land, if they can make that leap, right? And it sounds like that y'all have done that. It was just super cool. It's and nobody understands the problem, but you also have a unique position because you continue to have real estate investment. So what I find is that prop tech companies, especially in the United States, have a hard time with beta testing because they need a property to test their stuff out on, right? Well, you had that luxury because you had I did that. I did too. I had the luxury. I could accelerate my beta testing because I have properties to test it out on, right? I go, hey, go over here and check it out on this one, right? And a lot of prop tech companies don't have that luxury, right? And so I think it's super cool that you're still doing both, which it allows you to tinker and test and do all this stuff. And if you're large enough to, you can put some prop tech on this property. It's not going to ruin your day, right? Because you're large enough to do stuff. So that's super, super cool. That is awesome. So what are y'all looking to do next? What is your kind of vision for 24 and 25? So that's one question. And then the next question is, are you feeling the recession like we are in the United States? Is that I always want to ask that question. Is like, what is the landscape of the real estate market in India right now?
So three things. One is from a point of view of prop tech. we have a more longer term vision. We are building this for another decade, but we have got clear milestones of what we want to do till 2027. While because of being listed, I'll not be able to make forward-looking statements. But
Right.
if you ask me qualitatively, we intend to accelerate our rental marketplace platforms
Okay.
between Nestaway and Hello World, which are the largest rental marketplace platforms in the country already. So
Wow.
that we intend to accelerate uh, purely because the demand that we see by the virtue of urbanization, by the virtue of the millennial workforce, by the virtue of the behavior of the millennial and Gen Z workforce, by the virtue of digital adoption, is humongous. If we quickly get some numbers right, there's around 500 million urban population in the country.
Mhm.
We are going to add another 100 million this decade,
Okay.
and around 28% of that entire, I would say, diaspora or the population stays in rental housing, and that is where I would say demand needs to be created, and
Mhm.
also demand needs to be discovered, and better access to this demand needs to be created for consumers. So
Right.
that's one key area that we want to focus on. The second area, of course, that we want to focus on is how do we make sure that there's more efficiency in real estate enterprises, and AI and CRM or the customer relationship management is clearly our flag post right now in this segment.
Mhm.
With an idea of how do you use data analytics to find better prospects for real estate projects,
Right.
and how do you make sure that their experience of interaction with the brand is better because you have a very robust CRM across the pre-sales, sales, and post-sales journey. So that's on the business side. Uh,
Mhm.
India real estate is not really facing as many headwinds. In fact, in the last 5 years, we've as a sector, we have received just a second, one second.
Oh, occupancy sensors.
Yeah,
Y'all
as a
are y'all are
sector,
very energy conscious. You just weren't moving around enough. That's awesome. Keep going. Mhm.
true. So as a sector, we have in the last 5 years received an average of $5 billion of investment. That includes a mix of FIIs and includes a mix of domestic as well. That we keep seeing increasing. There's good amount of interest from sovereign wealth funds across Southeast Asia, across the US to see or even Canada for a matter of fact, to look at India as a investment destination for real estate. So
Mhm.
that's on the investment side. From a demand standpoint, purely because of the humongous urbanization
Mhm.
uh, and robust growth in economy, we see a lot of demand coming on the residential real estate side.
Yep.
Uh, on the commercial real estate side, there's been one key differentiator between how adoptions have fared in US, Southeast Asian markets, and India. We are back and better from pre-COVID levels.
Good.
Uh, 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 from a absorption standpoint, the India absorption on Grade A commercial office real estate was at around 5 billion across the country. That has come back to around 6 billion now post COVID. So that's been one
Okay.
great area of development. The
Mhm.
other demand that we see on the real estate side is data centers. That is being driven by two things. One is a need for data storage because of the ever increasing, exponentially growing digital behavior of consumers across the globe. There's
Mhm.
also one key thing that the government of India has done in terms of policy making is that they are coming out with a regulation that requires any company operating or serving a consumer in India to store their data in India. So that is going to generate a lot of data center
Oh boy. Yes.
and
Yeah, that's
yes,
interesting, especially financial data, right? So there's so many people that have financial or personal info, PII or whatever you call it.
absolutely.
So they now have to store it in India. Oh boy.
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
Interesting.
So that's fueling a lot of data center demand, and we
Yeah.
can see key hotspots getting a lot of data center. I would say requisitions and development. development activities across the country. So that's second. Industrial warehousing is also picking up because of increase in logistics demand, increase in SCM, increase in consumer demand across the country. So that's increase in e-commerce as well. That is fueling warehousing and industrial demand. So in terms of asset classes, there is robust demand in India real estate. Uh, from an overall GDP standpoint, I think though we are doing a 6 to 7% kind of a GDP growth,
Mhm.
uh, the general consensus is that we should be able to do better and to sustain or to sort of to make sure that we are able to realize the true potential of growth. We
Mhm.
should be doing a double digit growth. We should be doing a double digit growth on GDP for the front. uh, so we don't see as much headwinds in the economy as of this year.
Okay.
uh, but with globalization,
Yep.
with interconnected worlds,
Yep.
we always have to keep ourselves on the watch.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's kind of interesting. So, what about on the commercialization side? Are y'all looking to go into different markets? Or are you wanting just to stay India focused? Are you expanding to Southeast Asia or not? I'm just curious.
So from on the PropTech side, we already have a product which is in the Southeast Asian market
Okay.
by the name of the House Monk.
Mm-hmm.
It serves co-living operators. It serves co-living companies from a SaaS solutioning standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So they are already there. They have now entered the GCC market.
Mm-hmm.
They've done their first go-to-market there, and they're now wanting to expand. The other product that we intend to take to Southeast Asia or outside India and to GCC and other markets is our CRM product called Sell.do. In India, we are now expanding. We are now in a way saturated our tier one city presence. We are now going into tier two and three cities.
Okay.
And we are also facing a lot of competition from Salesforce, which is now categorizing real estate as an SMB segment and going very aggressive on that sector.
Yeah.
And there's neck to neck competition in terms of offerings, in terms of features, in terms of pricing, in terms of accounts.
Yeah.
So that we see a lot of competition at. But we feel that this product is good to go for the international markets, and some point of time we will definitely expand in the international market. So these two
But
products is where we are looking at international.
yeah. So you've made it when Salesforce comes hunting after you, right? When Salesforce wants to take you down, you've made it. You've arrived. But that's okay. Yeah, compete with the big dogs. It's a good thing. It's awesome. It sounds like y'all are getting there. That's super cool. That is, I find it so. But back to your point of around data, and I think there's a huge data revolution happening in real estate today. Um, and what I think is interesting is the technologies, and I don't know if you're looking at this, but the big thing that's happening here in the United States is the difficulties around integrations, right? The difficulties to get technology to talk to one another. Are y'all experiencing the same things? And are you specifically looking at technologies that can help the integration, problem? Where are you at with that?
Oh, this is omnipresent across all categories of B2B products that we are operating in. And primarily, if you take a typical office building,
Mhm.
and you take right from what is required from an access management point of view, right from what is required from a lift management or elevator access management point of view, to the IBMS, to the chiller management, to the plant managers.
Mhm.
There are softwares for all these individual equipment that you have, and there's no integration layer on that, right? So it becomes at times tough to offer a single siloed solution, because then you have to get into opening up APIs for the other softwares. Then
Mhm.
you have to go into complex system integration
Yep.
projects, which increase the timeline of deployment.
Yep.
And typically SaaS is supposed to be low touch, high velocity. It suddenly becomes a very
Yeah.
high touch project. It's a similar challenge that we face here in India as well. And so that's one building management case study, right? If we have to go and look at the CRM case study, then you're talking to either an SAP or a Tally
Mhm.
or an Oracle DB, and to make sure that all the systems are going to talk together to the
Mhm.
marketing module, to the CRM module, and so on.
Yeah.
So both fronts, yes, and that is where a little bit of a domain experience comes in handy, because any customization or any configuration around the system that the enterprise has
Mhm.
requires that kind of domain experience to have it built and delivered.
Yeah.
But fortunately, our teams, by the way of having that experience, have been able to mitigate this. But one key challenge remains that we are not being able to sort of do a quick get in get out for complex projects,
Mhm.
and the timeline to deploy has been a little longer.
Yeah, no, I get you. I mean, we're a data aggregator. I'm totally with you. It's my daily challenge. My poor CTO. He's not a technical officer. He's my chief integration officer. That's all he does.
Right.
But yeah, no, it is a huge challenge. I think at the end of the day, it's really kind of our secret sauce is like we can integrate with a lot of people and we can and eventually that will probably become a product in itself. We can help you integrate with a million people, and then that's kind of what we end up doing. But yeah, but it's a challenge and everybody's feeling it. And I think it's a huge opportunity for a technology company is to become the center hub, right, where you can pull data together, which is what we're trying to do. But yeah, no, I get you. Tal, let's talk about the debate. There's constantly a debate over here in the United States about return to the office. And because everybody, and I'll hate to say this, you won't, maybe because India is so young, overall is so young, but I just feel like it's a bunch of old people over here in the United States going, if you don't return to the office, you're going to ruin the world. Like that basically is what everybody's saying. And I'm just like, y'all just need to get over it. Like hybrid working is here to stay. And or we're going to have to re-envision what an office looks like. But I don't know if that's the same in India, but I would love to find out if that's what's happening in India. Are you having that same debate around do we go back to the office or not? Or is it culturally y'all just go back? I don't know.
So post COVID, we've had three phases on this discussion, right? Phase one was where uh, offices or other companies were reluctant to call their workforce back to office
Mm-hmm.
because of uncertainty over a new wave coming, and then of course the kind of flexibility that one needs to bring the workforce back to office and then bring them back to home was missing. So that was one phase where there was a lot of reluctance on the side of enterprises to bring
Mm-hmm.
their workforce back. There was also a talk about how they've been able to reduce the cost of real estate because suddenly this workforce was able to work from multiple locations, no overhead cost of managing facilities and amenities, and convenience for the workforce. So there was a lot of talk about it. Uh, Phase two was more about they realizing that maybe the efficiency that you get in working together as a team goes down a little bit because you're just not able to collaborate, cohesively, right? When you interact on VCs, the conversation is often linear. So a very simple, plain case of one having to complete an entire long form statement, and then of course the other ones coming in after that and after that,
Right.
and then what could be easily done in a whiteboarding session or an interactive session in person needs to be put together in a PowerPoint deck or a note and then sent across. So that adds up to the time also. So that feeling started seeping in. Also, there was a lot of talk about moonlighting in the country,
Mm,
where there were cases of
yeah,
people, doing two professions or two
yeah,
gigs at the same time. So
exactly.
that we went through that. Also, data security was one key concern
Mm,
across all the BFSI companies, and that has been sort of consistent from phase one and phase two. So phase two was in a way realization that office spaces are needed by enterprises, and phase three was about them calling the workforce back, but the workforce being a little reluctant to come back, right? Because
yeah,
the workforce obviously finds it a little more efficient of not to travel to larger cities,
yep,
not to travel from their house to the office location in traffic and congested spaces. So that realization was, that took very strong hold, and then they were that then companies had to sort of bring out diktats of asking people to come back to office by a certain date.
right.
Uh, they started hybrid workplaces and so on,
Yeah,
hybrid formats and so on. So
yeah.
present scenario is where a lot of companies have changed their office strategy, and they've gone for from an earlier centralized location or a workforce location to a hub and spoke model, where there's a hub, which is the core team sitting and coming in, and then there's spokes across the city in micro markets where talent pool is available,
Yeah.
where people can actually go and work. There's also a hybrid model that is quite present, where people are required to come to offices a couple of times a week, and then rest of the 4 days are typically work from homes. So that is now in practice.
Hmm.
We as somebody who comes from a real estate practice and also a proptech practice, we feel that the efficiency and the experience that you get to work in a collaborative environment in a workspace
Hmm.
physically is completely missing in the digital world.
Yeah.
And we've been promoting come back to offices and work from offices for quite a
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, so it's which changes the real estate landscape, right? Because people don't want to travel an hour. So like everybody who moved out because they can remote work are now there's going to be this shift back to I got to get closer to work because I don't want to sit in a car for freaking an hour, right? Or whatever it is and waste that hour. So it'll be interesting to see how the residential thing changes over the next 5 to 6 years because if people have to come back to the office then you're going to have more urbanization, right? There's a suburbanization, and now there'll be urbanization again. So it'll be really kind of interesting to see.
True.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's either that or technology solves the challenges of the hybrid working environment, right? If technology can solve the data security challenges of somebody working not in an office, right? Because it's more challenging to secure your data in remote sites, right? On Wi-Fi that's not yours and other things like that where people can hack in and steal your stuff. And then also, just the connectivity of the creativity that happens when people get to next to one another and go, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, let's do that. Right. I mean, all the creative shops, they want to be in offices, right? All the architectural people want to be in offices. And because if you're especially on those very design heavy if you're doing something as an architect for example in Revit or in AutoCAD or whatever trying to do that over an internet connection is just horrible you just can't do it. I mean it's like so you spend a half of your time lagging waiting because you don't have the internet connectivity to do it. So I get the cases. I get it's really kind of interesting to see, but it's interesting to see what technology is going to develop so that we can meet the people where they want to be, right? What technology is going to be on the next forefront to allow people to hybrid work where they can have the connectivity and you also have the data security for it to solve the employer problem, right? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I just like change. I'm like a person that likes change. Obviously, I'm a tech founder. I love change, right? So it's super cool. Well, what else can you tell us about I know you're publicly traded, so you can't tell all your secrets, but what else are you thinking that's happening as far as the Indian market and where you think the market is headed, especially for prop tech? And I'm just curious to see if it's similar to what's happening in the US.
Sure. So let me put prop tech in India into three phases again. And we also started prop tech similar to when prop tech started in the US a little later in the 2000s,
Mhm.
back on the back of the dot-com evolution, which started with classified listing set. So PropTech 1.0 was more about classified listings, people coming and listing on a marketplace and so on. So that was seen across a lot of companies in the primary buy sell area. Uh, that lasted till 2012, 2013. From 2014 onwards, there were a, there were 5 to 6 years when you saw PropTech 2.0, which was more of transaction management, more shared spaces, community management, and you can see the plethora of prop tech companies that came in India were operating in this space. PropTech 3.0, the space that we are in today, has now gone into financialization of PropTech, right?
Mhm.
Where
Yeah.
we see a lot of models which are now creating financial instruments out of PropTech. So, classic case is the fractional ownership space,
Mm-hmm.
where
Yes.
one will be able to create a financial instrument out of the real estate asset and then offer it to a larger set of investors by the way of converting it to smaller tokens, investable tokens that can be listed, probably traded at some point of time in the secondary market when the regulation allows it,
Okay.
and with technology like blockchain, etc. You should be able to have great governance on it
Right.
because it being public, it being transparent, and it having more cadence. So that's what we are seeing now. So three phases in PropTech, and we are now heading into the Web 3.0 or PropTech 3.0 phase, where we will keep on seeing more advent in this space
Mm-hmm.
with respect to blockchain, with respect to AI, with
Right.
respect to generative AI now.
Yeah.
Uh, I would say metaverse and some other tech are a little too early for adoption in real estate, but
Mm-hmm.
we will see that happening as we advance into this decade as well.
So the fractionalization is happening here in the US, but it's not blockchain based. Are you seeing that there? I mean, so it's really like we do these syndicates or syndications, which allow people to have pieces of real estate, right? So like Picasso, and I said Picasso, but Picasso and like ground floor, Crowd Street, like these different investment vehicles. Do those exist in India? Those kind of vehicles, do they have it? Okay. Yeah.
Fractional ownership in India is fairly new. I would say
Yeah.
it's been around for around 2 to 3 years, and
Uh-huh.
there's only a handful of companies that are practicing it at
Okay.
scale as we are. Um the industry has now matured because of the SEBI regulation. Last year, 2023, April, SEBI came in with a discussion paper around it. They involved all
Mhm.
the stakeholders, and
Yep.
then they went on to sort of formalize these guidelines where they took fractional ownership to the SM REIT space and formalized it in March 2024.
Okay.
Uh, Blockchain has been practiced at sandbox level, but
Okay.
the adoption from a regulatory standpoint and adoption at scale is missing in the country. We
Yeah.
do not see a lot of players doing that. We have done certain POCs at Aurum Proptech for blockchain. It works fabulously.
Mm-hmm.
It brings in a lot of velocity for transactions, but we
Mm-hmm.
have not launched it because purely we want to first get the right regulatory guidance. And
Right.
if the regulation is right, then I think it makes sense to go ahead with the launch.
Yeah. Yeah. With for me, my understanding with blockchain is yeah, and I totally believe it. I think it's the wave of the future. If we can figure out, I think it's just the regulatory people, it breaks their brain and they don't understand how to like how do we do this and it's such a new technology. But I know Europe has passed some blockchain regulations and they have an active, but you can't do blockchain. I mean the just the golden nugget of what the cool part about blockchain is the liquidity aspect to it, right? But unless you have a robust secondary market, blockchain doesn't work, right? And so I could just do a syndication and just buy a fractional ownership, right? But with blockchain is that you have the ability to sell it. Just you have the liquidity aspect to it, right? So unless there's this robust secondary market, blockchain doesn't, it's not useful. Especially for fractionalization of real estate. It's useful for other cases, but for fractionalization of real estate, it's not. But in Europe, they're starting to build those robust markets, which is super cool, right? So if a European person wants to invest into the Indian market, they can. And so you can just do this through the blockchain. So I think it'll be interesting to see where it develops over time. But I totally am with you. I think it's the next wave of real estate investing. And I think it makes it more secure and makes it more, more transferable. And so it kind of becomes like a stock, over time. Like I can buy it and sell it, and if it goes up, great, and it goes off. And then you have a really good chain of knowing who owns what at what time, right? So now you're not having to have this exchange to understand all this stuff, right? So as a real estate company, I think it's cool. I think it's cool. I like to see where it goes. I'm not smart enough in blockchain to know how it ends up being where it ends up. I'll leave that to the blockchain people. But yeah, no, but I think it's super cool for sure. I'd love to see where it goes. So that's awesome. Well, this has been such a cool conversation, and I know, look how dark it is behind you. I know it's super late there in Mumbai. I know like it's like 9:30 at night or 10 o'clock at night or something crazy town. And I appreciate you being willing to come on and stay up late. I always feel bad when people are spending times away from their family, but I really appreciate you coming on. And it's been such a fun conversation. So if somebody would like to get a hold of you because they're like, I want to go to India and I want Aurum Proptech to buy me or whatever, how could they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. I think we've been very open to interesting ideas coming in, not just from India but across the globe. Before
Mm,
we started the enterprise, we went on to meet almost 85% of the mature stage companies in India in PropTech. We went on to meet around 140 odd companies across the country,
mhm.
and the learning was fabulous. I think we are open to looking at prop tech companies from across the globe.
Mhm.
We have an investment division which looks at early stage, mid stage, and mature stage prop tech companies.
Awesome.
And you can just go onto our website aurumproptech.in
Mhm.
onto the opportunities page
Mhm.
and send out your application or an email to us at
Yep.
contact@aurumproptech.in. Happy to sort of post and understand if any global company wants to look at India PropTech.
That's great. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. This has been so awesome. So cool.
Thank you so much, Amy, and I should again thank you for bringing in the right visibility that is required for this sector
Oh,
globally and in India.
thank
And we'll look forward to keep in touch and connect with you in the
Oh,
future.
for sure. For sure. It's great. Thanks again.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.